Two players lacing up their shoes, pulling on their jerseys, and heading down the tunnel. Looks pretty much the same, doesn't it? In truth, when these college basketball players hit the court, the playing field is anything but level.
Hi, I'm Peter Fiorentino, and you're watching Sports.edu, College Students on College Sports. Today we're talking about college basketball's battle of the sexes. For men and women in college basketball today, there are still some stark differences in fan support, college program resources, and a professional payday even in 2014. Let's pass it over to Aaron Maven in the Scouting Report to check out the differences between men's and women's basketball today. Aaron?
Anything you can do, I can do better.
The Battle of the Sexes was famously reenacted in this 1997 Gatorade commercial with Mia Hamm and Michael Jordan. CBS basketball reporter Seth Davis says the ad addressed a lot of social issues.
And I think that ad where you see this beautiful woman who's a great athlete taking on and competing toe-to-toe and besting in certain areas the best and most recognizable African-American male, but the best athlete on the planet, was a very important cultural moment, I think, and that's something that I think sports is uniquely qualified to do.
Some say that moment isn't over yet. In fact, we have to go back 40 years to the first real effort to level the playing field between men and women.
Title IX is a federal statute that was enacted in 1972. The whole idea behind Title IX as applied to sports is that women should get the same educational benefits from sports participation that men historically have had.
Those benefits include scholarships to play basketball and get a college education. UW-Milwaukee women's basketball coach Kyle Recklick says schools are working hard to treat both men and women's college basketball programs equally.
Equality can come from a lot of things, just showing our girls that our locker rooms are the same, that we get the exact same gear that the men's do. We tie their shoes the same way that they tie their shoes. I mean, you can go down the line. We travel the same as our men's team does. The only difference is who sits in the stands.
According to Marquette Athletics, on average, over 15,000 attend a men's game in a packed professional stadium, while just a tenth of that show up to support the women's game. Coach Recklick has spent her life on the court and says it can be frustrating to see fans ignore women's teams.
We give away pizza and t-shirts and just to try to get, especially students, student fans in the stands. That is it's a sad reality as to where we are.
That free pizza or t-shirt deal Recklick mentioned is a common tactic to get fans in the seats at collegiate women's games. Dr. Jim Pokrzynski, an associate professor of strategic communication at Marquette University, says it's imperative when you have a smaller audience.
On the women's side of things, facilities that tend to be smaller and audiences that generally are smaller, maybe you have 50% of a facility that would be filled naturally, and so then you have a little bigger task to try and fill that other 50% with promotions and marketing.
Many people say that women play a much more fundamental game, but few can actually watch on TV to see the difference. Take this past basketball season, for example, when all 32 of Marquette's men's games were aired on television, only 3 of the women's games made it to air.
It's not fair. It's not, but that's the world we live in right now, and in my opinion, I think it's a long process to get it. I don't know if it'll ever be completely fair, but I do think that someday there will be more women's sports that we can put into the sportscast.
WXYZ's Brad Galley is a Detroit sports reporter who says the big draw on TV is the one that will generate big money.
The most watched show throughout the year is the Super Bowl. And then after that, there's the World Series, there's the NBA Finals, the NHL Finals. Sports deals drive TV nowadays.
Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg has famously said women should lean in. She says it's time to cheer on girls and women who want to sit at the table. CBS's Seth Davis says sports offer women the opportunity to do just that.
The great thing about sports, and this is all through history, is that sports has always been a great agent for social change and cultural change and the advancement of societal norms. That's the great thing about sports. The ball doesn't know the color of the foot that kicked it or the gender of the foot that kicked it.
UWM's Recklick says that means resisting calls that change the way women play basketball, like lowering the basket or shortening the court.
I think that, we as women have earned the right to play the men's game. And no matter what, like when it comes down to crunch time, if it's a good game, if it's a close game, I think you find more people watching both.
Whether people are watching the game or not, the battle of the sexes is being talked about in coaches' offices, in the stands, and right here on the court. From the Al McGuire Center, I'm Aaron Mabin, Sports.edu.
We polled over 200 Marquette students to see which games they find more exciting. As you can see, about 200 students find men's games more exciting than the 10 who preferred women's games.
Now we know some of the details surrounding this issue, but unless we walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, we'll never fully understand their experiences. I'm Mary Kay O'Connor. Let's take a look through the eyes of two Marquette basketball players, Chelsea Butler and Juan Anderson, in the locker room.
I'm Chelsea Butler. I'm from Minerva, Ohio, and I came to Marquette mainly for basketball and the education. There's a great education here.
Juan Anderson from Oakland, California. What brought me to Marquette is the combination of basketball and academics.
I've been playing basketball since I was like 5, I'd say. I started off in like the church league with like all the little boys and all the little girls, so I've been playing for a while.
I played on the playground and outside, but not organized basketball until my freshman year of high school.
I'm the first generation, I guess you could say, to go to college and to have my career set. After college, my dream is to go play overseas. Everyone asks where, but it's really not a where for me. It's just being able to have that opportunity to go overseas and just that experience of being paid to play somewhere with endless opportunities.
I'm actually the first person in my family to play collegiate basketball. Hopefully I can play basketball, whether it's the NBA or overseas, whatever. And if not, then find a job.
We reach out. I think our team is one of the most sociable teams. So I know that we reach out a lot, like in class and at the union, just all different kinds of things, just talking to people and like being personable, because it's not all about coming just to watch basketball. It's coming to like see your friend play or coming to see somebody you know or somebody who's in your class.
I hate talking about basketball, honestly. Whenever somebody talks about basketball, it's a major turnoff for me. Even with my family, when my mom calls me or my brother calls me, I say, is this about basketball? I don't want to talk about basketball.
Women's basketball is more fundamental than men's basketball because we're not as athletic. We can't, not everybody's dunking. We've scored like 90 points a couple games, 80 points a couple games, so if that's not enough to bring fans, then I don't know what we could do.
I have female friends who play basketball. I'm friends with the females here on the women's team. I have a friend who's really good at Cal, Arizona State, and UCLA as well, but nobody goes to their games. And I mean, I like women's basketball.
There are some differences just because male and females aren't always looked at the same. Like this is known, like this is throughout the business world anywhere.
I won't go into detail about the things we get and they don't get, but I'm really close with Chelsea Butler and Epi on the women's team. So sometimes we're sitting around talking, I'm like, oh yeah, we did this on a trip or so-and-so, and they're looking at me like, well, they don't give us that. And it sucks, and I've gotten to the point where I kind of feel bad because I'm seeing it from a personal point of view, not necessarily from their point of view, but I'm so close with them and they're upset about the things and I kind of feel for them. But at the same time, they even understand it's like, you guys bring in more money than we do, so we can't really complain. I can't really see it changing unless you have a lot more women like Brittany Griner. Other than that, I don't really see it changing.
I think coverage and just people talking about it isn't as great as it is on the men's side, but I think that it's jumped a lot. I know this is something we've talked about like within our coaching staff a couple times, that back when they were younger and they were growing up and they wanted to do sports, if somebody asked who their favorite athlete was, they were naming a male athlete. And now if you ask a little girl who her favorite athlete is, she can name a women track star, a woman basketball athlete, a woman volleyball player. I think that nowadays people are promoting females more than they were, so I think as much as that's growing in the future, I think it's just gonna expand.
Sports.edu polling uncovered responses that showed almost 90 people say they never watch women's sports, compared to 4 people who say they watch it often. Nearly 120 people watch men's sports often, compared to about 20 who say they rarely do.
Hi, my name's Peter Bosch. The players we just talked to are currently involved in this issue at the collegiate level. But what about those who are farther along in their career? We were able to talk to some past and present professionals in our next segment, Glory Days.
I played basketball when I was in college. I was a student athlete at the University of Virginia when scholarships were really just starting to be handed out for women's athletes. So it was a very different time. You know, women's basketball it didn't even resemble what we have today. There weren't as many good players. There weren't as many good teams. There were nobody in the crowds. You know, there was no television. There was no air travel if you had to go to a game. So it's come a very, very long way in a relatively short period of time. And that's happened at the high school level, and now there's a WNBA where women can play professionally. So there's more things that are different, really, than are alike from the time I played. And for somebody like me to have been able to see all of those changes has been very exciting.
Women are very fundamental, and for the fan, that's not always the funnest thing to watch if you're not a die-hard basketball fan. But I think a lot of guys get a lot more fans because of their athleticism, being able to dunk, their speed, their quickness, just the certain things that they can do. But if you're a true fan of the game, a player like myself, I enjoy watching women's basketball because, like I said, they do the fundamentals. They play hard, they play as a team. But I think the guys have a little bit more flash to the game. Like I said, they play above the rim, and so maybe a little bit more exciting at times.
My sister played women's basketball when there were 3 on one end and 2 on the other. They never went over half court, only one person could. So I think it's adapted a lot of the men's philosophy. I think the women shoot the ball better than men, by and large. And it's got their own exciting style. We see some great kids go into the pros, so I think it's really come a long way.
South Dakota State women, they made the tournament for 6 or 7 straight years, so they were actually getting more fan support my freshman year than we were, just because they were so good. It's kind of evened out now, and probably men's basketball gets a little more support now, obviously, since they're doing pretty well now. So, but they got one of the best fan supports probably in the country for men's basketball. The attendance is great, so it's pretty equal actually.
They need to continue to see what the focus is and not lose sight of creating open doors for the people that are following them behind them, because there's still inequities, even with Title IX. But the exposure to me is the biggest advantage that women's sports is enjoying, I think, today. You need 10 hands to score a basketball, and whether it's on the men or the women's side. And the ball does not discriminate against gender. So the game is a game. I don't care whether it's women or men playing. I don't care whether it's a bunch of 8-year-olds playing, or what race you are, or what religion. The game of basketball is meant to be fun, and I think both girls and boys and women and men enjoy it.
On Sports.edu, Battle of the Sexes, we've heard from current and former players and the sports journalists who've covered them. It is clear that the love of the game is driving these athletes to push for opportunities. But will the fans still support them? Numbers for college basketball tell a conflicting story. This past season, the Marquette women's team scored more points than the men, scored more points per game, and even had a better overall record. But they only averaged about 1,500 fans at their games compared to the 15,000 the men drew. The women used 14 of their 16 home games to provide free pizza, t-shirts, and discounted concessions to bring fans to the arena. The men offered perks at only 2 home games. Perhaps what's most surprising about these numbers is the cost of the games. Marquette students pay $100 to attend 16 men's home games, while attendance to the women's games is free all season. So here's a question for you. If anything, what needs to change? Should the women play a different style of basketball? Does the media need to commit to cover men and women equally? Or should the fans support the women for the fundamental game they play? I'm Trayvon Wesley. Thanks for watching Sports.edu, college students on college sports.